Hey everybody. Welcome. Welcome back to our nightly lives. Welcome in everybody. Hopefully you can hear me okay. I was just trying to hurry and make the settings to where they were back on to the microphone here. Did you like it, Steve? So our new song, I finally uploaded it and I did it myself. That was the song that Steve made us. I love it. I love it. So I was waiting on Vincent to help me because I thought it was going to be harder than what it was. It was so easy. Like I literally just downloaded it into like a MP3 or something and then just put it right over to the StreamYard. I was like, that was so easy. So I'm so glad we have a song now. I love it. So welcome in everybody. Welcome back. This is the longest we've went without a live. Since we started doing our lives here, it's been 1 year ago. So welcome in. Oh, thank you, Miss Hope. I did. I had a really good vacation. I guess I needed it more than I thought I needed it. I didn't even know. Like when we were on vacation, I was listening to the pre-recordeds with you guys, and some of the pre-recordeds, I just kind of sounded tired. But to tell you all the truth, I haven't slept. Like me and Vincent haven't been to sleep since yes, not last night, but the night before. So if I'm a little wonky tonight, just roll with it. I'm a little underslept. We tried to sleep on the plane, but of course, you can't do that. So we took a red eye home. We took a red eye there. And then on the way home, we took a red eye home. It was like a late night flight. We left at like 10 o'clock at night from LA. So LAX back to Ohio, and then a 3-hour time difference. And then when we got home, of course, our cat, he doesn't like other people. So when people come in, look after him, he's not going to come out. So he was tripping the camera, but he was being so fast about it where by the time I get to the camera, he would be gone. So when we got home, he was like screaming at me. He was upset. Like I don't think I'm going to leave the house for a while. So it's going to be a while before I leave again. And then we went and picked the dogs up and they literally were just so happy. Like, so now we're all full and whole again. We're back home and I'm back in my spot. Thank you, Catherine. She said, look good for not sleeping. Thank you. I appreciate that. I feel like my eyes are going to close on me, but I don't feel tired. I'm going into the, like the laughing kind of giggly kind of mode. I hope I don't get like that tonight too much since we're going to be talking serious stuff. Did I see there was an anniversary in here? 5-year wedding anniversary is tomorrow. Oh my gosh. Married for 5, best friends for 18 years. Wow, you guys know each other for a long time, Ashley. I didn't know you knew each other that long. Well, shoot. Well, thank you. Well, hopefully I did. The weather there was pretty nice. It wasn't bad. It was actually a lot cooler this year than last year. When we went last year, it was 116. This year it was like 80. So it was pretty cool. But we got to do a lot of really cool things. I have so many cool videos coming for you guys. So I didn't do like a ton of, true crime content when I was there, but I did do a couple things because I saw it and I had to do it. So me and Vincent on one of the videos I'm going to post, we went to a knife store. We just happened to stumble across a huge knife store in the mall. Like, they sell K-bar knives. So we got a whole video for you about them. A lot lighter than I thought. I thought it was going to be heavier, but we got the same model. I had the guy pull it out. I was like, can I see the sheath with that? And I'm just like videotaping it. Like, don't mind me, he was really nice about it. So, but yeah. So anyway, I'm going to try to stay on my notes today, but I probably won't. But I did. I had a really good visit. Thank you so much for everybody for like asking me about it. I appreciate that. And yeah, happy anniversary. That's 5 years. Isn't that wood? Like you're supposed to give each other wood. Me and Vincent usually do the wedding things, but we do them more for now, Proper credit. Oh, George Frest has. Oh, I'm not gonna say it. Oh, look, but I'm gonna put it up here. Harmonica and Glenn Hicks lead guitar for the music also. Thank you, Steve. I love that. I love it. It gets me in the mood. Gets me going. Thank you, Jan. I was going to get ready to say that, and that's what I was thinking about. That was my next thing. And ring the bell and then ring the bell again. Sometimes it's weird. Or if you're on a cell phone, you have to have your alerts set to like allow notifications for YouTube. It's very weird. Very, very weird. But we will get into tonight's live in just a moment. Actually, I have one more thing. So if you didn't hear me, I kind of said it a minute ago. Yesterday was our 1 year anniversary covering true crime on this channel. So before I did true crime, I really didn't have a channel. It was I just did some videos, like I did one like over COVID, just like everybody being shut in, one over like losing my parents, one like over my car accident. They were just kind of like here and there, more of like a life kind of vlog videos. So, and I didn't have a channel name. So we only had 179 subscribers this time last year. And we are now at 11,672. So we've grown. So thank you so much, guys, for helping me and helping all of us, grow the channel. I was like, it's been a year already. So thank you, Heatherlicious. I can't believe it's already been a year. And I remember you being in the chat. I remember all the originals. Oh, in Ireland. Yes. And I'm here. I'm live tonight. It's actually physically me instead of a pre-recorded. But I tried to do the pre-recorded so that way you guys would at least be able to have the chat. Because, if I'm here every night and then all of a sudden I'm just like gone for 6 days, who am I going to chat with? Because I don't know who you guys are chatting with, but I have nobody to chat with. So I'm like, got to do pre-recorded. So. But this was a case that I wanted to cover on this channel, the one that we're going to cover tonight. And I'm going to put her picture up here. Hey, Ray. Thank you guys for the congratulations. I appreciate it. And I am going to put the channel membership in the chat in just a moment if anyone wants to become a member. Okay, Reba, thank you. I love that. That's what I do too. I usually will put it on and then I walk away from the iPad if I'm listening to a live. And then people I know. So if you guys are ever in a live and you chat to me and I don't chat back, it's because I'm cleaning. I'm not ignoring you at all. I'm just the worst at that. 4 more days. Really, Jan? I checked the other day. It said 5 months. Oh, when do you go on vacation? Isn't it like a couple days? Or like you said when I get back? I thought it was like when I got back, you were leaving. So Jan will be going on vacation next. Really, Olivia? I knew you were from Kentucky. Actually, I don't know why I didn't know that. I mean, I did know that, but I don't know why I didn't register. Well, this one. So this case, I've been following this since 2015 when it happened. This was a case that just one of those true crime cases that gets you like in your feelings, and at that same time you're side-eyeing people and you're wondering why things aren't being done. Things are being very quiet, like kept quiet in this case. It's it's eerily quiet. Like they're not giving us a whole lot of information. So I think it was only 8th. So about 10 days or so ago, I was cruising through YouTube or Google or something, and it come across my Crime Online came across my page, and they said they were arresting someone. And I was like, what? Vincent was like, what is this case? And I'm like, oh my gosh. So I'm like trying to tell him and about it because, it has so many different twists and turns. It's very interesting. So we're going to go through all of that tonight. I'm going to grab my drink really quick. Oh, you are? I'm at my boho Airbnb. Ooh, Jan, that sounds so fancy. I bet you it is so fancy. I'm like a boho. That's like my vibe at home. Oh, good. You guys don't know about this one. So that's like, good for us because we need more people to know about it. And I'm glad that there are people that know. Is it really Ashley Higgins? I said that to Vincent. I was like, Crime Con is here. Or like, I think it's like in LA. I don't know where it's at. But I was like, I think it's in California. But I was like, I don't know when it is. Oh, man, I would have stayed. Vince's mom would have had me stay there. She would have let me. I think that it was a good visit with his mom and his brother, and Vincent got to see his family, and I was really happy about that. So we had a lot of stuff going on. So we have just got back from vacation. We had our 1-year anniversary on the channel. So we'll be doing something like this week. We'll do something for that. And then I think there was something else I wanted to tell you. Oh, so I told you about us going to the stores. We went to a knife store, got video. Also, we went to an Albertsons grocery store. We just happened to be there. And I was like, I'm taking a video of this because some people don't know what Albertsons is. I didn't know what it was. So I have a video of that coming out also. If anyone's emailed me, I'm going to go through my notes that way I don't forget before we get started all the way. If anyone's emailed me, I will get back to you guys this week sometime for sure, because I'll be going through all my emails. We have a remodel renovation going on in our house this week. So it's crazy, but we're all here for it, you know. But before we go ahead and, get into Crystal Rogers' case all the way, if you guys wouldn't mind just taking a second to hit the like button. I appreciate you guys all being here tonight. And we'll probably, we're going to do Crystal tonight, and then we'll probably go back to Idaho tomorrow. I know we have a lot to catch up on over in the Idaho sphere. So, but I do have some videos for you guys. I wish this picture was a little bit bigger, but I do have a timeline and I have more to show you guys as well. So what we're going to be covering tonight is this is Crystal. Crystal Rogers. She's from Barstown, Kentucky, and she went missing on July 3rd, 2015. If you have never heard of this case before, she is a missing person as of right now, but she's presumed deceased. She was last seen with her boyfriend, and his name is Brooks Hawk, and there are now new developments in this case, so that's why I'm kind of bringing it back up. But I wanted to cover it anyway. And then there's another missing persons case I want to cover on the channel. So we're going to cover this case tonight. This won't be our only live over it. There's going to be more details, more information to come out. But I wanted to give us like a little bit of stuff. I didn't, Jan, but I saw there was a video about it. Is it crazy? Let me know. There's so much new stuff. Like when I came in, today, I was like, what is going on? Because I just saw it, like some stuff today. So, but let me know. So what we're going to do is we're going to go over the timeline, and then I have a couple videos. Like I have one of Nancy Grace actually interviews Brooks Hawk. She interviews him, and it's just a short interview. I just have a short clip of it. I think they took the actual full interview off like the internet because I can't find it anywhere, but I do have her podcast or her video that she did a few years after doing the interview with him. So we'll see how her perspective kind of changes. And then there's been some new developments in this case. So one is 136 pages long. Oh my Lord, I'm going to write that down. Let me get my Post-it note, because if not, I'll forget because I'm so sleepy. You'll have some stuff to read tonight, huh? Because I know you're really into that case too. Oh my gosh, Delphi that's another one. Used to shop at Albertsons when I lived in San Diego. CJ allegedly interesting said, really? See, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they were in California. Like I don't know. I just didn't assume. And this is like, they're everywhere. And so we happened to be in one, and I was like, we're just going to get a video of this. And I was like, can we go down the cleaning aisle? And I think people probably thought, I don't know if they thought I was nuts or if they just were like, it's California, because I was videotaping the most randomest things. But it's all, I like to know. I'm a visual person. So this is Miss, I'm sorry. I thought I was going to lose my voice. Sorry. This is Miss Crystal Rogers here. She is 35 years old. She has 5 children. She's 5'9". Her weight it doesn't matter, but if you were to see her, she's 155. She has scars and marks. It says Rogers has tattoos on the center of her back, lower back, ankle, and left foot. So she does have some tattoos. The FBI is offering a reward up to $25,000 for information leading to the identification, arrest, and conviction of the individuals responsible for the disappearance of Crystal Rogers. And like I said, she disappeared. This started back in 2015. So on July 5th, 2015, Crystal Rogers was reported missing by her mother after she had not been seen or heard from since the evening of July 3rd, 2015. The same day Rogers was reported missing, her car was found abandoned with a flat tire at mile marker 14 on the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown, Kentucky. Rogers' keys, phone, and purse were still inside her red Chevrolet Impala. Rogers is the mother of 5 children and is not known to go anywhere without her children. On November 19th, 2016, Rogers' father, her father, Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard, was shot and killed on family property near Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown, Kentucky. And we're going to go over all of that because it's tangled. So Crystal's father is he's the driving force behind her. People looking for her. He's out looking every single day for her. He's in his 70s, I think, at the time. Not in the best of health. I didn't think that he looked like, these days are hot, brutal. He's out in fields. He's looking for his daughter. He's going to bring her home. So he ends up going out with his his grandson, I believe, and they were out on private property hunting, and somebody ended up shooting him. And you could see where they went through the tree line. There's different documentaries out there if you guys have seen them, but it's crazy. It's insane. Oh, Heatherlicious, I'm sorry. I have a headache tonight too. I could feel it. Like I took one Advil, I might need another. So it must be something with the stuff. How old was he, Erica? I don't know how old he was. He looked older to me. But maybe that's because back in 2015, I was a little bit younger. No, I was not much younger though. Well, not much younger. Let me look him up. Because he was like at least 60s, wasn't he? I would say I thought between like 70 and 72, but I don't know. But you guys might know his age better than me. Oh, he was. Wow. Oh, sorry, Mr. Ballard. Let me make sure this is the right one. Wow, he was a lot younger than me, or a lot younger than I thought. Oh my gosh, he's only 54, y'all. Oh my Lord, y'all. I thought he was so much older because of that's what I was going to say, Erica, because of what it did to him. Like, wow. I wish I could see I'm going to have to go back and look at a picture of him before, because her mother, I was looking a picture, like I was going through the videos today to show you guys. Because a lot of times I'll listen to them and I don't watch the video part, and I'll go back and watch the video part. And her mom has, to me anyway, she looks like she's lost a lot of weight, through hurt and pain, of course, Deb. Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't imagine losing a child, and then a child that has 5 children. You know what I mean? Like, and then one of those is connected to Brooks, which we all, and we'll get to that, but we all think, he has something to do with it. So it just doesn't make any sense. Let me share this with you guys. Let's see if I can move this over. There we go. Put me down here for a minute. And thank you guys for being here. I can't believe that he was only 54. Wow, I'm so sorry, Tommy. He's up there cussing me right now. He is. He's saying I was only 54. Oh, you are, Erica? Well, then good. I'm glad we could pick your brain. It's been a while since I've really looked into this case. I would say the last time was maybe 4 years ago, or maybe before 2020. Maybe right around that time, until I saw the development. I was like, oh my gosh, because there just weren't any developments. So I did put together just a small timeline, and then I added some videos to the so I'll have some videos after this to get us caught up until what's going on now. And I do have like another little couple little videos for you guys. So this is Crystal Rogers again. And let me see, what does this look like on your side? Okay, it's big. It's kind of big. For some reason, when I was trying to share it, it wasn't sharing very well for me. So, oh my gosh. Oh, thank you, Tiffany. And oh my gosh, girl, you need some, oh, you need some little WD-40 for your screws. That's what I used to say about mine. I'm like, oh my gosh. But I've never had to have mine adjusted. Good golly, honey. I've had them taken out though, but not adjusted. Let me know. Tell me if that hurts. If you have them adjust. I bet that does. Like it, not like the actual like surgery, not the cut, but the actual like when they tighten them. I'm very curious about that, if you don't mind me asking, because wow. Wowza. Thanks, Glowbug. It's good to be back. And if I missed anybody, I'm sorry, guys. I haven't slept yet. We got on a red eye last night at LAX at 9:40, 9:50 or something. And then we got back here. I think it was, I don't remember actually, 5, 7, 5. I can't remember. I just know we've been up ever since, but we're doing it. So about Crystal Rogers, she's a 35-year-old mother of 5, went missing on July 3rd, 2015. She was living with her boyfriend, Brooks Hauk, their son, and Crystal's 4 other children. She was last seen by her boyfriend. He said that when he went to sleep, when they went to sleep, she was still awake and playing games on her phone. And when he woke up the next morning, she wasn't there and neither was her car. But she's not known to just pick up and leave. You know, she has 5 children. So keep that in your head, you know, in the back of your mind. This one is a little bit smaller print, so I'll read it kind of slow for you guys. Hey, Dynamite. I like that name. That's so cute. It says here, the family immediately became suspicious of Brooks and said many times throughout this investigation that he didn't show any emotion. He didn't help in the searches. He didn't show up at the press conference. Although it stated that the police told him not to come, which the police never told him. They never did tell him not to come to the press conference. And even when Nancy Grace and another reporter interviewed him, he once again showed no concern for Crystal and the fact that she was missing. And I do have like a small clip of that interview that Nancy Grace did with him. And she looks, I shouldn't talk about anybody's age, but she looks a lot younger. She looks like, I don't know, she looks just different. I don't know. You have to see it. But, you know, I love my Nancy. On July 5th, Crystal's car was found on the BG or the Bluegrass Parkway. And I've actually been on Bluegrass Parkway before. Crystal drove a maroon 2007 Chevy Impala. Her purse, cell phone, and diaper bag were found on her front seat and the keys were in the ignition. The car also had a flat tire. Now, Erica, I have a question for you because wasn't her tire only like partially flat? Every report I was reading, I'm like, it's saying it was flat, but I'm thinking, if I'm remembering back, you know, it wasn't like all the way to where she couldn't maybe get to like the next exit. But let me know, because I know you said you were from there. Well, after the Handmaids are at all. Oh, wow. Well, Tiffany, I guess that's a good thing though, you know? Everybody loves Nancy. Everybody better love Nancy. I do anyway. Where was okay, so yeah, it says on July 8th, Brooks was brought into the police station for questioning. So at first, Brooks showed no emotion. And I do have the interview. And if you want, we can always go over that in another live. It's like 2 hours long, but it's a good one to watch. I mean, it is. So he had no emotion and that he was calm. About half an hour later, he showed he had a temper and was cussing at the police. Halfway through the interrogation, he got a phone call. It was his brother, Nick Hawk, who was a Barstow police officer. So his brother, Nick, you know, works for the police station. Brooks said he was leaving after that phone call. Crystal's mom thought it was weird that since he kept claiming he was innocent, why would his brother need to tell him to stop talking? So basically, when Brooks goes in for interview with the police, he goes in to talk about, Crystal's whereabouts. And his brother decides he's going to call Brooks. So Nick, the Barstow police officer, calls his brother and he's like, pretty much get up, get out of the interview. They're trying to back you into a wall. And so stuff like that. Very, very weird thing to say if you're an officer and your brother's in the hot seat for his, fiance or girlfriend's disappearance. You would think you would be like, dude, what's going on? Where's your girlfriend? I'm an officer, but Nick was fired. Yeah. They both fail. Yeah. The lie detectors. And then Brooks is trying to say, well, mine was inconclusive. No, it wasn't. Let's see. He never had the kids by himself. No. Oh, hey, girl, hey. I was going back up in the chat a little bit and trying to read a little. Tiffany, I feel you there with the pain. Sometimes I don't even feel the pain come. I don't even feel the pain come. And like, I'll just, all of a sudden it's like, it's bad, and I'm like, side note, Vincent had me walk up to this beautiful conservatory, I think it's called. And it was like up on this hill. Once we got back to the car, I took my shoe off because my foot was hurting so bad with the metal. And my foot was so swollen. I was like, oh, don't look at it. And I was like freaking out. I wasn't like, I didn't feel pain on that part of my foot. My toe hurt, but it was so swollen. I just didn't want to even look at it. So I could feel the pain. I could do that. I can make my picture. Wow, it's a little bit bigger there. Once I get off of here, I'll be able to make it a little bit bigger too. So we were with, we were just talking about Brooks and his interview. So the next day, Nick was called to testify in front of a grand jury. The police had a strong suspicion that Nick had a hand in the disappearance of Crystal. Nick was given a polygraph test and failed. They also searched Nick's police cruiser and found biological fluids in it. He told investigators he didn't care what the damn computer said and that he was innocent. On October 16th, 2015, Nick was fired from the police department. Shortly after that, they named Brooks as a suspect. They searched the farm property and took several garbage bags of evidence and didn't find anything. They did find surveillance tapes of Nick and Brooks leaving closely together and thought that was interesting. Yeah, thank you guys for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate that so much. If you guys don't mind just taking a second to hit the like, I appreciate that too. On November 19th, 2016, Tommy Ballard went hunting. Is pretty much what we were just talking about, more in a timeline though. Went hunting on his family property with his grandson who was 12. He told his grandson he left something in his vehicle. He was killed by a single gunshot wound to the chest. The police tested Tommy's gun and ruled out suicide. Crystal and Tommy's family think their cases are connected. Crystal's mom, Sherry, said Tommy told her that a few days before he was being followed. His case has never been solved. So neither of these two cases have any resolution to them. And then that brings us into even more cases that are in the same area that are currently unsolved. So the mysterious deaths in Barstow, Kentucky. In May 2013, around 2 a.m., a Barstow police officer named Jason Ellis was on his way home when he was killed off of exit 34. He got out of his car because it was being blocked, and that's when he was killed. He was killed by a 12-gauge shotgun. So basically, he came up to, I believe it was like a tree in the road. He got out of his vehicle, just like, and another case that we're following right now too. He got out of his vehicle to remove something out of the road, and he was gunned down. A year later, a mother named Kathy and her daughter Samantha Netherland were killed at their home. Kathy was a special education teacher, and Samantha was 16, a sophomore in high school. They were both unalived. Kathy was shot multiple times, and Samantha was bludgeoned, and her throat was, cut. So very, very heinous crimes. Very heinous. So yeah, both of these guys were. So the officer, Jason Ellis, was ambushed, and we all believe, that Crystal Rogers' father, Tommy Ballard, was also ambushed when he was going hunting with his grandson. And it's everyone that's kind of followed the case, and you guys will start to see, like, he really was out there looking for his baby girl. And I think he was getting too close to uncovering things. And they were like, no, we got to get you out of here. And whoever shot him knew, they definitely knew where to shoot, and they definitely knew how to kill. So very crazy. Jinx, she said. That is brutal. I still can't believe that Tommy was only 54. I feel so bad for saying he was older. I found this earlier. When was this from? This was actually just came out on September the 8th, it looks like. No, this was published back in 2022. Okay. So I'm going to play this. It's like kind of like a timeline of the case, and we'll watch this, and then we'll get into like another little video.
It's been 2,664 days since Crystal Rogers was reported missing. More than 7 years later, the case has not been solved. This week, the FBI honed in on this property south of Bardstown, a farm owned by the Houck family. Brooks Houck was Rogers' boyfriend. This is what we know about the case. On July 5th, 2015, Rogers is reported missing by her mother. Her car is later found abandoned with a flat tire at mile marker 14 on Bluegrass Parkway. Rogers' keys, phone, and purse were still inside. In November 2016, Rogers' father, Tommy Ballard, is shot and killed on family property near Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown. That case is also still unsolved. 4 years after her disappearance, possible human remains are discovered near the Nelson and Washington County line. They were then sent off for testing. Months later, it would be determined the remains were not Rogers. In August 2020, the FBI takes over the investigation. They then search the home of Brooks Houck, who is the main suspect, taking a computer, rifles, and other material. Later that month, the FBI identifies a new area of interest. In August of last year, the FBI searches several homes in the Woodland Springs subdivision in Bardstown. This would go on for a number of days. This brings us to yesterday's development, the search of this farm. At this time, the FBI's work here is still ongoing, with no signs of how long they'll stay. Much like Monday, we've not received an update on the work happening beyond the police barricade. However, there is one thing to keep in mind. If evidence is found, like the human remains found in 2020, it would be sent off to a crime lab to later be identified. In Nelson County, Mason Brighton, Spectrum News. It's been 2,000.
So they are keeping things like really close to the vest. So that's why there's really not a whole lot of information out there about this case, but they're starting to, I think, trickle out more. And I think more is going to come out as we, now that they're like breaking the case open. Well, thank you, Tiffany. I'm not sure, Ashley. That's a good question. I don't know, Cheryl. Isabel, I am not sure. I tried to email her again just to like see if she was okay. And she didn't write me back. So I hope she's okay. And I hope Bracken's okay. And I don't know. It's just bad. So sad. Let me share this with you guys next. Where are we at? Okay. So like I said, Nancy Grace did an interview. She had an interview with Brooks back in, I think 2015. Yeah. 2015. Let me see if it'll give me the exact date. No, it doesn't get, July 9th. So right after she, she comes up missing on the 3rd. So the 9th, 2015, he's on Nancy Grace. He has, I couldn't do it. I wouldn't be able to do that. I would not be able to go on Nancy Grace and get drilled and grilled and, with questions. Like, I just wouldn't be able to keep my composure. I think he does kind of a good job in a way. I mean, he's not very convincing, but it's almost like I don't know, he's been like coached about what to say. Like he like thanks her for asking the question. He's like, that's a good question and I should answer that. But then he doesn't really give you an answer. So this one is only like 4 minutes long, and then we'll play a longer episode and we'll kind of talk through that one. And then I'll give you guys an overall update that came out over on Court TV. So thank you guys for being here tonight. I appreciate it. It's good to see everybody.
In addition to her parents, Tom and Sherry Ballard, her boyfriend that she lived with, they're in their 3-bedroom suburban home. Brooks Houck is with us. So, Brooks, you go to bed and she's still playing games on her phone. The next morning around 8 o'clock, you notice that she's missing. Did you report her missing?
No, ma'am.
Why?
That is a great question, and one that I definitely want to hit the public and the media. I was not in the least little bit alarmed in any way, shape, or form. We have had a stress relationship at times, and one of the ways that Crystal has always chose to cope or to deal with that is by going to a young woman's name, Sabrina, that is her cousin, her dad's brother's daughter, whom she's very close to. She spent the night there on several occasions.
When you say several, do you mean 1, 3, 20?
In the neighborhood of 4 to 6.
Okay,
like that.
To Tom and Sherry Ballard, were you aware of that? Do you know who Sabrina is?
Yes, ma'am.
That's my niece.
Okay. Did you know that she goes and spends the night over there when she's having an issue at home?
I've known probably one time.
Right. Okay, I want to go back to Brooks Houck, who was the last person to see her alive. Brooks, did you go on to the July the 4th get-together that day?
Yes, I did.
Even though you didn't know where she was?
I was expecting, I'd putting in a phone call that morning and then around lunch. And usually the maximum period of time that she has stayed gone has only been like a day to a day and a half at the most. And as a result of that, I thought that she would.
Did you try to call her?
Us. I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, ma'am.
Did you try to call her during that time?
Not while I was there. There at the 4th. I called her prior to leaving to head in that direction. Yes, ma'am.
Some people have accused you of not being involved enough in the search efforts. What's your response?
That is a great question, and one I certainly appreciate you asking me. And that is all of my efforts in searching for her have been done behind the scenes with the Nelson County Sheriff's Office.
Like what?
Detective Snow, who's leading the investigation, and Jason Allison, who's a deputy there assisting him, along with the Kentucky State Police Agency Post Number 12. So
well, my question was what you had been doing with them, but let me ask you this. I know that you agreed to take a polygraph. Did you pass?
They, because of the way that the lines or whatever were on the thing, they determined it to be what's called inconclusive. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but they did tell me it does mean that I wasn't lying or I didn't pass it or I didn't fail it. They just ruled it inconclusive, and that's exactly the way that it stands. I've been 100% completely honest with everyone. I've been 100% cooperative in everything that has been asked of me. I've not asked for any kind of legal advice or assistance or an attorney of any nature. I'm 100% completely innocent in this, and I have exhausted my efforts with the law enforcement agencies to gather all the facts necessary to allow me to have a clean name again. And that's very important to me. I have not responded to a lot of the negativity and all this animosity because I want the emphasis to remain on Crystal's safe return home, and that's where I want it to. I want it to stay focused in that area rather than dealing with any of the animosity.
Sorry, that took me a minute to get my everything back on. I'm not as fast as I used to be. Truth and Translucent, are you from the Cincinnati area too? Let me know. Cheryl, I actually got to watch that today or last night on the airplane. It was a very weird flight. Very weird. Oh, I didn't know that. Very close. Yeah, me too. I'm like a little further north, but that's the closest city to me. So that's awesome. So that was just a little bit of an interview that Nancy Grace did with Brooks. I want to try to find that full interview for you guys, and if I can find it, I'll do it on the next live that we cover over this case, and I'll bring it to you guys' attention because I would like to hear the whole thing again. And I couldn't find the full interview, so I'm wondering if Nancy took it off, because I know that Nancy also did when she was covering Idaho. Well, she's still covering Idaho. She went to Idaho and she did the full drive to Kohlberger's and then to the house. Well, now she only has 10-second little clips of it on her Facebook. It's really weird. I don't know. So I'm like, what's going on? So this one I wanted to show you. This is Nancy Grace. She goes over the full, Crystal Rogers disappearance. This is back from, I believe, 2020. And she went over, she had the interview with Brooks in 2015. And then she does an update video in 2020. And part of this video, they do talk about remains being found. And they thought maybe that it was Crystal, but it unfortunately, at the same time, these cases, it wasn't. So if you hear that, that's what they're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and play this. It's 37 minutes long. So if you guys wouldn't mind just taking a second to hit that like button, that'd be great. Yeah, she's been missing almost 8 years now. Or 8 years in July. Wow. We're in 2023 already. We're almost at the end of this year. That's crazy. But I'm going to go ahead and play this through, and then I will give you guys the newest updates in this case, because they do have an arrest. And it's not Brooks, but it's literally the degree of separation is uncanny, and we don't believe in coincidence over here. So let me get this ready for you guys. Alrighty. It's going to be loud, so I'll turn it up so it doesn't blast your little ears out.
As we go to air, remains have been found. Are they the remains of a gorgeous young mom that goes missing seemingly without a trace? And then apparently the case goes cold. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. Thank you for being with us here at Fox Nation and Sirius XM 111. First of all, take a listen to our friends at WHAS 11.
According to the police, the discovery was near the border of Nelson and Washington County. Sources close to the case tell us it's a location near where she was last seen alive in July of 2015. Police say that they became aware of the remains on Thursday and called in the FBI evidence response team on Friday due to the difficult to reach location. Right now, those possible human remains are on the way to the FBI lab in Quantico, Virginia for testing.
Has a young mom, just 35 years old, body been found? We keep hearing the word remains, difficult terrain. FBI remains sent to Quantico. Again, thank you for being with us. Has the case of missing mom Crystal Rogers finally been cracked? Joining me, an all-star panel to break it down and put it back together again, judge, trial lawyer, anchor, Court TV, Ashley Wilcott at ashleywilcott.com. Dr. Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst, joining us from LA. You can find her at drbethanymarshall.com. Director of the Cold Case Research Institute, crime scene expert Cheryl McCollum. Former chief medical examiner for the entire state of Georgia, Dr. Chris Sperry. But first, to WDRB's Fallon Click. Fallon, thank you for being with us. You know, I noticed that they said law enforcement became aware of the remains. How did they find out about these human remains?
Well, that's still under wraps by police right now. Everything involving the case with Crystal Rogers is really tight-lipped, and it has been since day one. And that's, I think, what's really frustrating with this case, that you don't hear any information really ever from police. Anytime they hear of remains or they do a search, there's just very little information that is released to the public.
To Cheryl McCollum, founder and director of the Cold Case Research Institute. Cheryl, thank you for being with us. I don't quite know, with so much interest in Crystal Rogers' case, how the case, quote, went cold. What does it tell you that we are learning the police were, quote, made aware of the remains, and now the FBI is involved?
Well, it says to me somebody came upon something, whether it was her remains or a clandestine grave. There was somebody led them to this place. From what I understand, the terrain is very difficult to get to.
What do you mean
So
by that? Why does everybody keep saying the terrain is difficult? Is it heavily wooded? Is it mountainous? Is it down a ravine? Is it in a swamp?
That's what it looks like.
What do we know? A ravine?
It looks like there's a pretty decent grade, like probably a 90-degree angle. So, you know, getting to it with equipment would be difficult. You know, making sure that everything is gathered correctly. Again, you need a team of people when the terrain is difficult. In other words, it's not just like you drive up and there's a body laying there on the flat surface and you can work it easily. This, you're going to be at an angle. You know, things are not going to, sit straight, and, they could possibly roll further down. So wherever the remains were, it's difficult for law enforcement to work as a crime scene.
You know, another issue I have with this is that it's apparently 5 miles away from the last place she was seen. And I'm very surprised that tracker dogs didn't find her, especially if you take into light. Dr. Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst, joining me out of Beverly Hills. Do you recall in the Lacey Peterson case, tracker dogs actually tracked Lacey's remains from her home in Modesto, their own Covina, all the way to the San Francisco Bay, about a 40-minute drive. And tracker dogs followed her scent that far. But not in this case. Do you remember that?
I remember that so clearly. Yes, the tracker dogs picked up the scent. They followed the trail. And the fact that in this case, this mom of 5 went missing and they were not able to track her. And then there's a shallow grave or some kind of a grave 5 miles away. It's kind of shocking. I don't know the science of tracker dogs, but it does make me wonder a little bit about the investigation itself and the motivation of the police department and why this wasn't done a little bit more thoroughly.
We don't know what happened regarding tracker dogs, but I do know this about the location. There was a social media post by Nelson County Sheriff's Office that state they, quote, become aware of possible human remains near the border of Nelson and Washington counties. We understand the search was near Pascal Ballard Lane. Joining me, Ashley Wilcott, Dr. Bethany Marshall, Cheryl McCollum, Dr. Chris Sperry, and Fallon Glick. Right now, take a listen to what we are learning from WDRB's ace reporter, Fallon Glick.
The nightmare started over 4th of July weekend in 2015. Detectives say Crystal Rogers, a mom of 5 kids, was last seen on July 3rd by her boyfriend at the time, Brooks Hout.
I was calling and texting and she wasn't answering and nobody could get a hold of her.
Sherry Ballard, Crystal's mom, still remembers in vivid detail the day she went to the police station to report Crystal missing.
I remember later on them telling me, well, it could be a year before we find any answers. And I was just shocked. I'm like, there's no way I'm waiting a year to find my daughter.
Little did anyone know it would be much longer. When her car was found abandoned on the Bluegrass Parkway with her belongings still inside, it didn't offer any clues.
Okay, we have been asking and wondering about whether tracker dogs were used and why they didn't come up with anything. Well, take a listen to our friend Shane McAllister.
So I can't figure why she would walk away from the car and leave the purse there. When we took the bloodhounds up there, I mean, they had her things that you provided us for scent, and they said it was as though she was not even there. I can't explain that. I don't understand what that means. I don't know why. If it's her car and she leaves in it sometime Friday night, why does it appear to the dogs that she's not even there?
I agree with you.
This same set of bloodhounds tracked her in the car from 49, and they had never been to your mom's farm before, tracked her scent all the way down 49, turned on Balltown Road, and turned on Pascal Ballard as though they were following your car. So I know the dog's not defective because they're following her scent, and they don't know where your mom lives. They've never been there before. So the dog's nose is not defective. So when the dog doesn't even try to find her on the parkway where her car ends up, it's just very odd to me. And I can't figure out why they wouldn't find any scent of her at all if she walked one way or another.
They would have picked it up.
You are hearing Detective John Snow speaking, and he is explaining that the tracker dogs, were taken to Crystal Rogers' car where it was left abandoned on a parkway, but they picked up nothing. For those of you just joining us, have the remains of a mom of 5 finally been found, cracking a 5-year-old so-called cold case. There's never.
So if it was just if these were just like scent tracking dogs, would that not, it wouldn't alert on a decomposing, like a cadaver, right? Because they're trained to smell out like people that are living, I think. I'm just wondering that because if her scent wasn't there, then she was never there. I mean, pretty much point blank period, That's what I would say. But at the same time, her scent has to be there in the car. Like just in the car in general. Like it's her car. Like how could her own scent not be in her own car? Like even if Brooks drove or Nick drove or whoever drove the vehicle, like you would think that they would still have like her scent in there. Like, you touch your steering wheel, your gear shifter, your seats, your clothes sometimes are in your vehicle. Just, very strange. Your cats are good trackers, Doodlebug. I think mine could be too. It's my dog could track me clear across the US. That's for sure. I just thought of that though.
Been an arrest. Assumptions, gossip that she, quote, ran away. I never believed any of that. But why didn't the dogs pick up her scent where these remains were found? Why didn't the dogs pick up the scent near her vehicle that was abandoned? Cheryl McCollum, Director, Cold Case Research Institute, I can think of a lot of reasons the dogs did not pick up her scent where her car was parked.
Oh, I can think of one major reason that detective does not believe she drove that car there.
Yeah, she wasn't
He believes
in
that
it.
car. That's right. That car was left there along with her purse and cell phone, and somebody deliberately flattened that tire as a staging mechanism to make law enforcement believe, oh my gosh, she had tire trouble and somebody must have snatched her.
To Fallon Glick, joining me from WDRB Louisville. Fallon, what can you tell me? Let's start with the location of her vehicle and how it was found.
So her car was found off to the side on the Bluegrass Parkway, kind of out of town. And what was really weird, according to family, is that they say Crystal had no reason to be driving in that direction. She doesn't go that way ever. So they thought it was, first of all, very strange that that car would be there. And from day one, they thought there's no way Crystal drove that car, and there's no way she would have gotten out on her own just leaving, and there's no way she wouldn't have called her dad or another family member if she did in fact have a flat tire. They don't believe for 1 minute that she was ever in that car driving it to the Bluegrass Parkway where it was left.
Ashley Wilcott joining me, judge and trial lawyer, court TV anchor at ashleywilcott.com. Ashley, clearly, in my mind, the scene was staged. Wasn't the purse and the cell phone still in the car?
Yep, that's my understanding. They were. And I think that the valid point and the really thing to think about is that there were no scents picked up by the dog. And staging a scene, right, is what, when somebody is involved in the disappearance of a person, happens. That's what they do to throw the police off.
As a matter of fact, Cheryl McCollum, picking up on what Ashley Wilcott just said, I've never, ever, in all the cases I investigated, prosecuted, or covered, seen a random killer stage the scene. They grab the person and take off. They kill the person and take off. They commit the burglary and leave. No staging, nothing to keep them at the scene. They have no reason to. Staging only happens when you have some sort of connection to the victim. Explain.
Absolutely correct, Nancy. So if you have a connection to the victim, then you have to make it appear though you were nowhere near them. You don't know anything about it. So you do little things, again, like her purse and cell phone conveniently being left there, a tire being flattened. If this was a stranger, time is of the essence. If your goal is to kidnap somebody, you grab them and you go. What are they doing with her while they're flattening the tire and making sure her phone and purse are visible and just so easily, seen as somebody going into the car?
Well, I mean, if you did have a flat tire, why in the world would you get out of your car without your phone and leave? The boyfriend
But Nancy,
says
there's more than that.
Yeah, you're right.
In the
Go
middle
ahead.
of the night. It's in the middle of the night. He claims he went to bed. She was in the bed with him, and he wakes up. She's not there. So you want me now to believe that a mother of 5, for some odd reason, grabs her purse and cell phone and drives down a road she ain't never been on in the middle of the night for no apparent reason and has a flat tire?
Well, the disappearance of Crystal Rogers is part of an even deeper mystery in the Bardstown area. You heard earlier Cheryl McCollum wondering why she didn't call her dad. No, that was Fallon Glick. Take a listen to Shay McAllister.
Tommy and his grandson pull onto the private property, which butts up against the Bluegrass Parkway. At 6:50, Trenton stands next to his papa when a blast rings out. A single shot rips into Tommy's chest. That single gunshot is heard across the fields, splitting through the morning air. Casey's wife hears the gunshot from their home.
My son heard the gunshot, and I remember Casey saying, "Dang, Daddy already got a deer." I mean, they had just got out of the truck.
Tommy reaches for Trenton and tells him he's been shot and to start looking through his clothes for his phone. Tommy is trying to speak, but he can't breathe. At 6:55, Sherry has fallen back to sleep when her phone rings.
Trenton called me, and I couldn't hardly understand him. He's like, "Mama, Papa's been shot." I was panicking, I was trying to throw my clothes on, and I told Trenton, I said, "I'm going to call 911. I said, "I will call Casey." And, I'm scared because Trenton's there, and I don't know what's going on.
She hangs up and frantically dials 911 while getting dressed and running to her car.
So after Crystal Rogers goes missing, the one of the few people she could call for help and that were intimately connected to her dad, suddenly is killed. But apparently, a lot of people don't see a connection. Listen to Bardstown.
Kentucky State Police Trooper Scotty Sharp was a detective when Tommy was shot. He arrived on the scene just before 8 a.m.
We came out and on Tommy Ballard, of course, he was shot on the edge of the Bluegrass Parkway. So we have worked since that day diligently, working all 3 cases and working in cooperation with the Nelson County Sheriff's Office in the disappearance of Crystal Rogers as well.
Is there any connection between Crystal and Tommy's cases?
Well, right now that's still part of the investigation.
So at first and ongoing, apparently no connection made. Joining me right now, renowned medical examiner, Dr. Chris Sperry. Dr. Sperry, thank you for being with us. I remember discussing this case with you at the time, prosecuting a high-profile murder case that involved an arson of a millionaire's wife. He lived, she died, and she was covered in bruises. That's unusual, to die of smoke inhalation and be covered in bruises. That said, Dr. Sperry, that case really brought it home to me, the true fact that medical examiners look at extrinsic evidence when they determine COD and MOD, manner of death. For instance, in that case, the medical examiner took into account that all the husband's suits and dress shoes were removed from the home. All of his family photos of his family and relatives were removed from the home. Before the fire, about 24 hours before the fire, he checked the weather network, a call-in resource to find out if it would rain the day of the fire. He called his insurance before the accidental fire to find out if the fire insurance covered rental furniture after the house burned down. And then lo and behold, 72 hours later, the house burned down. I mean, there's just so much circumstantial evidence. And the medical examiner did look at that evidence when making a conclusion. Here you've got a young mom missing, and then suddenly her dad is shot dead. Would a medical examiner take that into account?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, there are no coincidences really when it comes to deaths that occur in a family, close together, unless there's some documentation. Someone dies in the hospital of a natural disease or something like that. But a mysterious disappearance, followed by another family member being shot, that's incredibly suspicious.
Very suspicious. Guys, we're talking about human remains that have just been found. Are they the remains of a young mom of 5, Crystal Rogers? Take a listen to WHAS.
Crystal and Brooks shared a home and together had a son. The couple and their toddler were together the last night Crystal was known to be alive.
Supposedly they went to the farm and they walked back in the field to feed the cows. My daughter's not going to walk back in the field in the pouring down rain, especially with her baby. I just don't see her doing that. And then they left the farm and went back home, and Brooks went to bed, and Crystal was still up on her phone, and Eli was running around playing, and supposedly she was not there when he got up. She was just gone.
Gone. But Sherry Ballard says Brooks didn't tell anyone his girlfriend was missing. Sherry didn't know her daughter was missing until days later.
And when it was Sunday and she still hasn't called, I started panicking.
Sherry and her husband Tommy rushed to the Nelson County Sheriff's Office to file a missing persons report.
Okay, that's interesting right there. To you, Fallon Glick, WDRB, Louisville, who filed the missing persons report?
That would be Sherry Ballard. She ended up seeing Brooks Houck in a parking lot somewhere in town and had been talking to him, wondering where Crystal was and why hasn't she been calling her back or answering any of her text messages. And she goes, well, have you filed a police report? And he said no. And then she goes, well, shouldn't you do that? And he goes, well, maybe you should. And then she goes, well, I'm going to go straight to the police department. And that's what she did.
I don't like that right there. Dr. Bethany Marshall, psychoanalyst, joining me out of LA, that they basically go tit for tat on who's going to call the police.
Nancy, I don't like it one bit. Can you imagine you're sleeping in bed with your spouse, or in this case, his girlfriend, mother of 5 children. You wake up, she's gone. Not only is she gone, but now you have 5 kids in your care, in your charge, who are asking for mommy, 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 where's mommy? You're taking care of them, you're feeding them. Hopefully he was, but you're not wondering where the mother of those 5 children is?
I mean,
that's so
maybe I'm too
suspicious.
lax, but whenever I see anything, I call 911. I mean, I'm sure they've got me on record by now. Guys, I want you to take a listen to our Cut 5 WHAS.
The mayor cited the reasons for the termination include a phone call he made to his brother, warning him about an interview the sheriff's department planned to conduct. He also failed a polygraph exam and then refused to cooperate for an interview with the Nelson County Sheriff's Department. Sheriff Mattingly says he's not worthy of being a police officer. He then made it very clear that he believes Rogers is dead.
Okay, so suddenly the brother of the boyfriend is fired from the police department. What happened, Fallon Glick?
So basically, they brought in the Houck brothers for questioning.
That is the
and
boyfriend that last saw her alive and his brother who's on the police department. Okay, what police department
Correct.
is that?
The Bardstown Police Department.
Okay.
And he had been there for about 8.5 years or so, the brother, Nick Houck. And they had brought in Brooks Houck for questioning, and they also brought in his brother, Nick Houck, the police officer. And during that exchange of questioning and talking about his polygraph results, which he did not pass, he is very defensive about everything.
Who failed the polygraph? The brother or the police officer brother or the boyfriend?
So Brooks Houck's polygraph results came back inconclusive.
That's
Nick
the boyfriend.
Houck, the boyfriend. Nick Houck, the brother and the police officer, he did not pass the polygraph test. Every time they asked him a question about Crystal Rogers and her whereabouts, the investigator said it spiked as a major lie, and the FBI said, I'm no longer asking you if you know where Crystal is. He goes, I know you know where she is based off these results.
So
the reason why he was fired.
Cheryl McCollum, that looks really bad. But the police officer brother apparently called the boyfriend and said, hey, they want to interview you. Is that grounds for firing someone, Cheryl McCollum?
Absolutely. I mean, to me, if it's the standard procedure in a police department is conduct unbecoming. If you do anything where you're, harming an investigation, trying to, make something look like it's not, you're forthcoming. If you're not honest, of course they can fire you for that. Nancy, there's more to me to this than anything. Remember her car that's abandoned on that road in the middle of nowhere? Whoever drove that car had to have a way to get home. So now you have a brother involved who's lying. Perhaps that's how somebody got home. There was another car involved.
It seems as if the plot is thickening, and in the last hours, we learn remains have been found about 5 miles from where Crystal Rogers was last seen alive. To you, Fanning Glick, WDRB Louisville, where have her 5 children been while mommy's been gone?
Well, the youngest child, who is the child of both Crystal and Brooks, he's been in custody of Brooks Houck this whole time. And then her other children have been staying with Crystal's mom, Sherry Ballard.
Okay, guys, I want you to hear from Shay McAllister, Brooks Houck interview with detectives. Listen.
You had a little fire. When was that? After you took your walk or before you took your walk?
I know we fed the cows first because I want to do that as quickly while we had still plenty of daylight. I don't know if I lit the fire before we walked back here or right when I got back. I could have done it either one. I don't remember.
Mm-hmm.
After the fire and with their toddler in tow, Brooks says he and Crystal take a walk.
That's to me, and I've got a couple of kids, but everybody parents a little differently. To me, it seems a little late to be out on the farm with a 2.5-year-old. Where is he at midnight? Has he been asleep in the car for a while? Is he still?
No, he's still wide open, and any night he's so used to sleeping so later in the morning. His normal day, that's his 7, 8 o'clock in the evening. Really? 11, because she sleeps much later in the morning. She stays up. So and it's always been that way.
So
And
he did go at midnight.
He's wide open.
Okay. Did you go straight home on Friday night, or did y'all stop somewhere? Or because I'm thinking if that's their normal 7, 8 o'clock in the evening, it might be dinner time. Did you stop and eat something, or did you go straight home?
We did not eat anything. I went straight home.
Okay. So you went straight home. So if we assume that he's correct in about 10 minutes after midnight.
Okay, you are hearing the boyfriend, Brooks Huck, speaking to Detectives Brooks Houck. And, you know, Cheryl McCollum, you and I have lived through a lot of trials together. I would be playing that. First, I do a motion before trial to allow it before the jury. I would try every way I could to play that in the opening statement. That might be difficult because something has to be entered into evidence before you can show it or play it for the jury. But right there, hopefully I'd have a jury full of moms and dads. It's the last thing you want to have your 2.5-year-old up at midnight, because you know what that means? You're up at midnight. That's what that means. Now, true, Cheryl, as you well know, John David and I and Lucy, being dragged along, have stayed up all summer, every night watching Kung Fu movies till 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the morning. But for a 2-year-old, that's a whole nother thing, Cheryl. I would play that first chance I got to a jury. Of course, let me point out the boyfriend, Brooks Houck, says he's innocent. What about that statement, Cheryl McCollum?
Oh, I think you would play that up. I think you would play the fact that his brother lied and couldn't pass a polygraph. I think you would also do what you did so well and so beautifully, Nancy, is basically you would explain to a jury, people are commonly murdered for only 3 reasons: sex, money, and revenge. That's it. So in this situation, if the remains show that she was not sexually assaulted, clearly her car wasn't taken, her phone wasn't taken, her purse wasn't taken, so money wasn't the motive. That leaves us with revenge.
Guys,
and you would explain to that jury, there ain't but one person.
Right. Guys, we are talking about the remains just found in a remote area, we believe down a ravine. Are they the remains of Crystal Rogers? Now, Rogers was last seen, this young mother of 5, she just turned 35, about 5 miles away from where the remains are found. And, you know, Dr. Chris Sperry, former chief medical examiner for the entire state of Georgia, if it's not her, I'd like to find out who it is. Do we have another missing person, another missing female that happened to be 5 miles from where Crystal was last seen alive? Dr. Chris Sperry, let's assume it's a heavily wooded area. It may or may not be the remains in a shallow grave. At this juncture, several years after she goes missing, how do you expect, what condition do you believe those remains would be in, Dr. Sperry?
Skeletonized, that is, that all of the soft tissues would be gone, and actually the bones would be fairly dry. It takes about a year after a body starts to decompose before they lose the oily and greasy feeling from just decomposing fat material. After that, they're dry, and they would be scattered over an area, sometimes a large area, because of animal activity, coyotes, raccoons, possums, all sorts of different animals that will eat anything. They're just foragers that will eat a dead human just like they would a dead deer, but they tend to drag pieces off and they're scattered all around. So it would be a fairly large search area. It could be easily 100 yards, 200 yards in diameter.
I was just thinking about the way that just rolled off the tip of your tongue, Sperry.
Well,
about animals taking chunks of a human body and running away with it.
Well,
do you ever hear yourself?
Well, of course, we just happen to inhabit a portion of the food chain that then we think we're at the top of the food chain, but we're really not.
Well, who do you think is?
Well, I think well, anything.
I hate to cross-examine my own witness, but you put it out there. Who do you think is at the top of the food chain?
Who I think is at the top of the food chain? lions, tigers. I mean, we're lucky that we can catch them, but
You do know they're in the cages, right?
yeah, in the cages. But
Okay.
if you put yourself face to face with one, you know who will probably win.
Yeah, you're right about that. Dr. Sperry,
Yeah.
I'd love to continue cross-examining you on that. But let me move forward with the fact that remains have just been found. The Bardstown Police tip line, 502-348-HEAT. 502-348-4328. Fan and Glick, it's been a long time coming. I'm trying to figure out how they, quote, became aware of remains, if the remains are down a ravine or if they're in a shallow grave. We know tracker dogs didn't tell police. So who possibly could have tipped police off about this location?
Well, a lot of times when remains are found in the area, and that sounds weird to say because there are remains that are found in and around Nelson County, but seems to be quite often. But it's usually just a random person that comes upon these remains. Maybe they're out hiking or walking or kayaking or something, and that's typically how remains are typically found in this area.
Crystal Rogers goes missing July 3, 2015. Last seen in the company of her boyfriend, Brooks Houck. They have a little boy together. The little boy is currently with his bio dad. His 4 siblings are with her mother. What happened to Crystal Rogers? In the last hours, remains have been found 5 miles away from where Crystal was last seen alive. Take a listen to Brooke Houck speaking to Detective John Snow.
I probably woke up around, in between that time, like 6 or 7 o'clock, and then I left. I did my normal thing, changed my clothes, put my clothes on, and headed out. Shortly after that,
So you get up between 6 and 7, and where's Eli at when you wake up?
He's next to me.
He's in the bed with you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you get up. Does he get up with you?
He's still asleep whenever I get up, but I go to the bathroom and all that kind of stuff, and he's still sleeping there on the bed.
But Crystal isn't there when he gets up.
Yes, I noticed that she wasn't there. I didn't know exactly what to think. I don't know what time I called her. Yes, I called her that morning.
Brooks takes his son to the farm, but his lack of concern for Crystal's whereabouts gives the detective pause, and he probes.
If I woke up on a Saturday morning and my wife wasn't with me in the bed, as is normal, if she were not, probably the first thing I would do would be to call her to find out where she was.
He's absolutely right. You are actually hearing the boyfriend, Brooks Houck, age 38, speaking to the detective about the morning Crystal Rogers seemingly disappeared. To Ashley Wilcott, judge and trial lawyer, Court TV anchor. You can find her at ashley.wilcott.com. Do you remember the case of Susan Powell? Remember her husband, Josh Powell, takes her and the little boys. Wait, no, he says he just takes the little boys, tiny, tiny boys, out to go camping at midnight in literally freezing temperatures. And coincidentally, that's the night Susan Powell goes missing, never to be seen again. Her body has never been found. And when the little boys were asked what happened to mommy, they drew a picture of mommy inside daddy's car trunk. This reminds me of that, Ashley, because he's saying at midnight, they decide to go take their little boy, their 2-year-old, for a walk.
Yeah, it doesn't pass the smell test. I also want to talk about people who disappear. A, people don't just disappear. B, statistically, those who choose to run away are not mothers, specifically of 5 children and a 2-year-old taking a walk at midnight. None of that passed the smell test. And the reality is a mother of 5 children doesn't just disappear.
Guys, we're
Nancy,
talking.
I have a question.
Jump in.
Well, I keep wondering about the boyfriend. He wakes up, his wife's not in bed. He says they were out at midnight with a 2-year-old, which obviously is not true. But do we know if he was dating somebody or having an affair? There seems like such lack of details around her disappearance and what was happening in the relationship at the time.
To you,
Had
Fan
he
and
taken
Glick,
her-
what do we know? WDRB, what do we know about the state of their relationship?
So at the end of their relationship, in terms of her going missing, Crystal's mom, Sherry Ballard, actually had a conversation with her in their driveway right before she went missing. And Crystal had said that she was going to leave him, and she has all his tax information, and it's hidden in a box somewhere. And Sherry never asked any follow-up questions because she thought it was very strange. And that's one thing that Sherry regrets to this day, is not asking more questions about that one little thing that Crystal had said. And so that raises suspicion in the family because it just came out of the blue and Crystal was saying it. Also, I want to point out that shortly after Crystal disappeared, Brooks Hauk started dating another woman whose name is also Crystal, who is also a blonde woman, and they have some similarities.
Is she missing?
She is not missing. They are still together.
Okay. At this juncture, Fallon Glick, WDRB, what is the status? Are we waiting to find out the autopsy results and whether this body can be identified as Crystal Rogers?
Yes, we are waiting on that information to get all the details from the lab in Quantico back to us here in Bardstown. Police say they're not going to release any further information until that comes back. And family is also being very, very tight-lipped right now. They're asking for respect to the family, and they just basically want to not talk right now.
Up until now, this was a, quote, no body case. Has it all changed? We wait as justice unfolds. Nancy Grace, Crime Stories, signing off. Goodbye, friend.
She said signing off. I love that. So I wanted to play that for you because it kind of gets us kind of caught up to now, but we could dig through this case for a lot more lives, and we will cover it on more lives too. I just wanted to get you guys like at least a timeline kind of set up, because there are just different crimes that have happened in that town that are so close in relation, if not directly related to Crystal's case. And we're going to start, I think, seeing the trickle effect is going to start happening where, they've kept everything so close to the vest this whole time that maybe they'll start giving out a little bit of information. Because in this case, they've really kept it close to the vest, just like in the Idaho case. Haven't heard many updates. We haven't gotten any. And then all of a sudden it's like they arrested somebody. And so there's a connection too. So the connection is, and I'm trying to remember the guy's name, but the night that Brooks and Crystal and their son were out at the farm, the night that Crystal disappeared, there was a gentleman that called Brooks, and it was about like a rental property he had. And he told the guy on the phone, he said to him, and I can tell you his last name. Last name was Lawson. And he told the guy on the phone that he would have to call him back. He had to call Crystal to relay the message. Well, when Brooks is in the interview room or interrogation, it turns into an interrogation kind of. The cop says, well, if Crystal was with you that night, why would you have to call her, if you were sitting right beside her? So it leads us to our new suspect, because our new suspect is Joseph Lawson. He's age 32, and I don't know if they've confirmed it yet. I'm pretty sure they probably have, but they were saying that it was his son. So Joseph's son would be the dad. Steve Lawson. Thank you, Erica. Oh, thank you for liking my channel. I appreciate that. Thank you. I really try to do a good job, and I'm running on 0 sleep tonight, y'all. So help me out there. Give me a little break tonight. I can't believe we're still awake. I think I'll probably sleep for a while tomorrow. Maybe. I don't know. I never really do. So I'm going to show you a picture of this guy. I'm going to tell you now because he's scary. He's going to haunt your nightmares tonight. Boys and girls, this is him. He looks like somebody that you would hire or you'd find to do something for you. But so I'm going to read this little article here for you guys, and then we'll go into Court TV, and they went into great kind of like more details about the arrest. So it says, arrest made in connection with missing Kentucky mom Crystal Rogers. And this came out September the 8th, and I think I saw this like the 9th or something. And I was like, oh my Lord. I was so excited to see that there was like movement in this case again. And even if, like, let's say like this was like I don't think that it's just, I don't think that they arrested him on a whim. I think that they have evidence and there's a reason why they arrested him. But let's say that I don't even know what to say there, guys. I'm getting tired. I had my train of thought was going, then it just disappeared. So we're gonna read. Sorry, guys. And then I'll probably remember it whenever we get off the live. The arrest has been made in connection with the presumed death of a Kentucky woman who disappeared in 2015. So 8 years ago. Crystal Rogers' grandfather told WLEX that Joseph L. Lawson, 32, has been charged with conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. Now, physical evidence, I'm not sure what that could be. Person, car. We all, conspiracy to commit murder is he was in cahoots. He was in talks with somebody and they had a plan going to commit this crime. Lawson pleaded not guilty in Nelson Circuit Court on Thursday. His bond was set at $500,000. Rogers was reported missing on July 5th, 2015, after she was last seen at a home of her boyfriend, Brooks Hawk, Crime Online previously reported. Hawk had been named a main suspect in the case, but has never been charged. The indictment charging Lawson does not mention Rogers by name, but says the crime took place in Nelson County on July 3rd or 4th. It says that Lawson agreed to aid one or more persons in the planning or commission of the crime or an attempt to solicitation to commit the crime when he and or the co-conspirator intentionally caused the death of another. Lawson's attorney, Kevin Coleman, said that the charges do relate to Crystal Rogers, but he declined to further comment. Lawson was indicted earlier this summer, but the indictments were sealed until his first court appearance. His next appearance is in October. 2 days after her disappearance, Rogers' car was found abandoned with a flat tire on the Bluegrass Parkway. Her keys, phone, and purse were inside the vehicle, as Crime Online reported. And no one is going to do that. Like, I don't know why they always leave. Like, this happens in a lot of cases that we cover on the channel, especially with missing women. And then they find them, deceased later on. But they always end up leaving their keys behind, their phone behind, their all that stuff behind. It's like, why wouldn't you get rid of that stuff? I don't understand. Like, they'll be like, they left their stuff here. And it's like, no person's going to leave their phone and their purse. If let's say the tire was going flat. Let's say that tire was going flat. If you're on the highway, you're going to immediately get out of the vehicle, get your purse, get out of the vehicle, take your keys with you, lock your car, and, start walking. Or call somebody on your cell phone and get into the grass area off of the highway so you don't, get hurt. But you're not just going to leave, everything there behind. So a year after the disappearance, Hawk's brother was fired from the Bardstown Police Department for allegedly interfering with the investigation. 16 months after his daughter vanished, an unknown gunman shot and killed her father, Tommy Ballard, while he was hunting on his property. The FBI took over the investigation in 2020 and has since conducted numerous searches, including a 5-day search of the farm owned by Hawk's family, where Rogers was reportedly last seen. Evidence recovered from the search and the others were sent to the FBI labs for analysis. In January, Kentucky Attorney General Daniel Cameron appointed a special prosecutor to investigate the deaths of Rogers and her father. I think that this case is going to be breaking wide open. So, the guy that Brooks is on the phone with that evening, his son's directly involved, No, I didn't hear about that, Aries. And the dog, 3 dogs? That's crazy. Oh my Lord. I would never hurt a dog or an animal. Today, y'all, my cat was he was extra cute. I've never seen him like that. Like, he was missing me. Like, I would come over here and he couldn't find me and he would just be making these loud meows. And I'm like, Rocky, I'm over here. And then he would just come walking in here and he'd be happy as could be. Just talked about animals, made me smile because I didn't get to see mine for 7 days and they needed me. So I'm going to go ahead and share. Well, I was going to share this with you, but I stopped sharing the screen. So I'm going to share this with you guys because this is a little bit longer of an episode, but this is going to just kind of talk about what we were talking about, the arrest made in the Crystal Rogers disappearance. Vinny Politan, our dude Vinny. I need a Vinny back here. I need a Vinny. We got to work on that. That'll be the next one. So I'm going to play this. If you guys don't mind just taking a second to hit the like button, it really does help the channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed yet, well, go ahead and subscribe. We'd love to have you. So I'll go ahead and I'll play this here for us. Thank you guys for being here.
I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. And those of you who have been watching the show know that for years there are a lot of unsolved cases that we've been covering. Some of them have gone cold. So when one of those cases suddenly has a development and starts to heat up, it's big news. It's big news for us, but even bigger news for the family and for the victims in those cases. Tonight, we're going to be talking about a woman named Crystal Rogers. To start, this is a mom who had 5 children, only 35 years old. I want that to set in for just a second, because when we talk about things, terrible things that happen to nice people, the impact of that is deep, extremely deep. In this case now, think about this. This is Crystal Rogers. She disappeared in 2015 on July 4th weekend. 5 young children who've been growing up without a mom. Their lives forever changed, and not for the better. Not even, you got to work through that stuff, but growing up without a mom? Growing up without a mother? So July 3rd, July 4th, she is last seen at the home of a boyfriend and then is never seen again. And it's desperation almost from the beginning in this story and in this case and in this mystery. Her parents, obviously heartbroken. Her dad, heartbroken. My daughter is missing. My daughter's missing. And what does he do for the next 16 months? For the next 16 months, every day, day in and day out, he's looking for her. Trying to find Crystal. Trying to find his little girl. I don't care if she's 35. That's his little girl. And he continues every day and does not stop until someone puts a bullet in his chest. So Tommy Ballard, who's looking for his daughter Crystal, who's vanished, is then murdered. It takes a family tragedy and exponentially multiplies it. And this isn't a small town. We're talking about a small town, Bardstown, Kentucky. Come on, a missing person and a murder? So a lot of people think these two would obviously be in some way, somehow connected. But for 8 years, No one's been arrested. Case hasn't been solved. Brooks Houck is the boyfriend of Crystal, the father of her youngest child. Of those 5 we were talking about, the youngest is his child as well. He's been a suspect for years. 4 years. There's been like a microscope on him. He's been interviewed. He's been interrogated. He's been watched. There have been searches on his property, his family's property that he developed because he's in the construction business. We don't know the results of those searches, but some of them have been pretty recent. And again, 8 years, a suspect, but not arrested for this. Now the big break in the case. This man, Joseph Lawson, has been arrested and charged. Conspiracy to commit murder. Conspiracy. Magical words in the law, conspiracy. One person cannot conspire. It takes more than one. So as we get this break in this case, an arrest, charges, it's not over. It's just beginning. Scripps News Lexington, our great affiliate, has more for us tonight.
It's hard because I feel like nothing's happening right now, and I can't handle that, thinking nothing's happening.
Crystal Rogers' mother, Sherry Ballard, chose not to speak with us today, but if past interviews are any indication, the news of an arrest is a long time coming. 32-year-old Joseph Lawson of Nelson County was arrested by the FBI in connection with the death of Crystal Rogers. When the FBI took over the case 3 years ago, Ballard prayed for this outcome.
See them come in. I have begged for this. I've made it my mission in life to get more help for Crystal's case. So to see it actually happening was very overwhelming. It was a very hard weekend for me.
Crystal was reported missing on July 5th, 2015. That's just a day or days after Lawson is accused of his involvement in the case. He's charged with criminal conspiracy to commit murder and tampering with physical evidence. The indictment states that on July 3rd and or 4th of 2015, Lawson committed conspiracy to commit murder when he agreed to aid one or more persons in the planning of the crime or attempt to commit the crime, and when he and a co-conspirator intentionally caused the death of another. This is the first arrest made in the case since Crystal's disappearance. Crystal's then boyfriend, Brooks Houck, has remained the main suspect, but he's never been charged. Crystal was last seen at Houck's home, leading some to question if and how Lawson and Houck are linked in the Crystal Rogers case.
I guess as a mom, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking, gosh, could she still be there? Could she still be there? I guess until I find her, I'm just never going to be happy with that farm. I always think that's the last place she was seen. Could she be there and maybe it was overlooked or something? We've searched in the woods numerous times, and we have walked through something and come back by and seen something that we totally missed.
So this man, Joseph Lawson, in court being arraigned. Let's take a look.
The indictment says on July 3rd, 2015 and or July 4th, 2015 in Nelson County, Kentucky, that you committed the offense of criminal conspiracy to commit murder when with the intention of promoting or facilitating the crime, you agreed to aid one or more persons in the planning or commission of the crime or an attempt or solicitation to commit the crime when you and or a co-conspirator intentionally caused the death of another. As charged, that's a Class B felony where you're facing 10 to 20 years in prison. So do you understand what you're charged with in that indictment?
Kind of, but yes, sir.
Kind of. Let me tell you, this might be the key to peeling back all the layers as to what happened to Crystal Rogers. Let's bring in our guest joining us tonight from Lexington, Kentucky, anchor at Scripps News Lexington, Nancy Cox, back with us. Nancy, great to see you. Thank you so much. Let's start by putting some perspective on this, right? You guys are on the ground. You've been covering this story for years. How big is this development?
Huge is not a big enough word for this development. There have only been 2 cases in my 31 years of covering the news in Kentucky, 2 cases that I said would never be solved. One was Crystal Rogers. I never believed there would be an arrest in this when one didn't come in the first 5 years or so, because it was pretty clear to everyone who the suspect was, and the fact that they had search after search after search and had nothing to report, no evidence. I was not optimistic at all. So this is huge for finally an arrest to come down. And as you've said, the conspiracy charge that's with it, we know this is just the first domino to fall.
So what has the reaction been from whether it's family, law enforcement, Brooks Houck, whoever? What have you been seeing and hearing out there?
The first thing is shock. People like me didn't think this would ever lead to an arrest, and now here we have one. And as I said, clear indication it's just the first arrest to come. So shock was the first thing. But now everyone just wants to know why, how, what does he know? What evidence do they have? Are they simply putting a lot of pressure on one or more people to flip and to give greater evidence against the main suspect? We don't know. Everyone is so anxious to hear. And I can only imagine being in Sherry Ballard's shoes right now. Hopefully she is being briefed on all of this, but we know they can't tell anyone everything. So there's just a huge desire right now for information. How did we get to this arrest?
What do we know about Joseph Lawson, his background, who this guy is?
We don't know a lot, except that he's been in and out of trouble for much of his young life. The name Lawson came up in one of the very first interviews police did with Brooks Houck, but it wasn't Joseph Lawson, it was Steve Lawson. What happened was they were interrogating Brooks about a phone call he made very late the night Crystal disappeared. They showed him the number. He called it up and he goes, "Oh, this was Steve Lawson." Who's Steve Lawson? Well, he works for me. That's basically all that's been released. This is the interview right here you're looking at. He asked him, "Why did you call me late that night? I can't seem to recall." And there was a little back and forth about, "Oh, don't you remember? There were some rental properties I had a question about, and you told me you'd have to call Crystal about that." Well, that's an upper red flag, because he was supposedly at that moment when he took that phone call sitting beside Crystal in his truck. So why would he need to call Crystal? He talked around that a little bit as well, saying, "Oh, well, I knew she wouldn't want to bother with this late at night, so I acted like she wasn't with me." So just some inconsistencies, some red flags went up there. We've looked into the name Stephen Lawson, and we can tell you he does have a son, Joseph. We don't have that birthday to compare, but one could assume that Joseph Lawson would be the son of the Stephen Lawson who Brooks Houck said worked for him. And by the way, Joseph Lawson was just 25 years old when Crystal disappeared.
So we've got between Brooks Houck, who's been this suspect all along, and the man arrested, just 1 degree of separation, which would be the man who works for Brooks is the father of Joseph. That is fascinating. Okay, are prosecutors, investigators saying anything now?
Nothing. They've been extremely tight-lipped from day one, especially when the FBI took over the case. So no, they aren't sharing anything with the media. Just, this is the date the crime happened that we're charging him in connection with. And that was, of course, the July 4th weekend in 2015 when Crystal disappeared. Joseph Lawson's attorney has confirmed these charges are related to Crystal, but the FBI won't even come out and say, yes, that's correct. So they're not telling us anything. one would guess they're trying to put the most amount of pressure they can on Joseph Lawson and anyone else they're talking to or potentially charging in this case.
And what's next?
They need them.
Yeah.
They need them to talk. Well, it's clear if in 8 years they haven't charged Brooks Houck, they clearly need Joseph Lawson to talk. They need his testimony. They need others who might be involved in this. They need their testimony because clearly there's just not enough evidence to arrest Brooks Houck at this point.
All right, Nancy Cox, anchor at Scripps News Lexington. Thank you so much. Great reporting always coming from you. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, as you heard Nancy talk about this interview with Brooks Houck, remember, this is the boyfriend. The father of her youngest child is being interviewed. I want you to watch this interview. This is July 8th, 2015. So this is just a few days after she's gone missing. And the last time she's seen is with Brooks Houck on the family farm that the Houck family owns. So let's take a listen as they talk about this late night phone call to Steve Lawson.
Okay, who is Steve Lawson? He's somebody works for me.
I just want to tell you I'm sorry about everything that's going on in your life, brother, and I got you in my prayers.
I said it is a very difficult and trying time, but I appreciate you you saying that. But hey, I need your help while I got you on the phone here. Do you remember the other night you called me really late, and I forgot what you asked me. Can you? I guess it wasn't on the phone. I might have been tired. I know it was pretty late at night. Can you remember what you asked me or what you were after? I can't remember.
Yes, sir, I can. I called to ask you for them numbers for a house.
Oh, for a rental house.
Yes, sir.
And what did I forgot? What did I tell you?
You told me that you would call, what's her name, Katie or whatever, she handles all that.
Crystal.
Okay, I apologize.
Yeah.
And she said she handles all that, and that you would get back with me on it.
All right. Thank you so much, Neil.
Hey, if there's anything I can do, you give me a call.
Thank you. You have a good night now.
Yes, sir. God bless you.
Okay. So that begs a question in my mind.
All right.
If she's in the truck next to you when he called, why would you need to call her about getting numbers for rental property?
Because being that late at night, we're headed to the house. You know, I just wouldn't. She normally's not going to deal with stuff that late. And I mean, I probably didn't even look at the phone to see who it was calling me. I'm sure I just answered it. You know.
But he said you told him that you need to call her.
All right.
Why would you need to call her? I mean, that's an odd phrase for someone who's sitting next to you in the truck. Do you understand? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying. But I mean, that's what if that right there is what I told him, that right there is what I told him. We wasn't on the phone that long, but normally I would just, she handles all that, and that's what I would do. She's not going to want to mess with that kind of stuff that late. I'm sure I'll probably try to answer the phone really quickly, so that it wouldn't, a lot of times after I get moving, it goes to sleep, you know. Sometimes he goes to sleep in the truck, sometimes he doesn't. So if you want to call him, you got his number and everything. If you want to call him, you know, you can call him.
Interesting the way he talks around all of that. Going to bring back in our body language experts later this week to take another look at that in light of the information we're getting now and how significant it is. All right, let's dive a little deeper into all this. Joining us from Cincinnati, Ohio, investigative journalist, producer, and co-host of the Investigators podcast that is focused on the Crystal Rogers case, and a friend of mine, former co-worker, Jessica Knoll. Jessica, great to see you.
Hi, Vinny. Great to see you too.
Okay, so this is a major development in this case. I mean, they've been looking at Brooks Houck all these years, nothing. Now they've got 1 degree of separation. What are your thoughts tonight?
You know, I've been using the exact same analogy that she used a second ago was dominoes. This is just the first. And I've gotta believe that this is not only just the first, but it's gonna be huge. It's gonna blow up. And I think we're gonna see My guess would be at least 3 more arrests.
3 more? What are you hearing? Or can you not reveal what you're hearing? Because I've got, okay, Brooks Houck, potentially, right, if he's connected to this. The connection between Brooks and the man who's arrested could be Steve Lawson, potentially. He hasn't been arrested, but that's a potential. What else is out there?
Well, we covered these extensively on the Bardstown podcast in 2019. We covered all 5 of the unsolved cases within Bardstown, and Crystal and Tommy were, big ones of those. And in doing so, what we uncovered in that was Brooks' brother, Nick Houck, was at the time a Bardstown police officer when she went missing. And he actually ended up getting fired in part for getting involved in the case. He actually called during one of those interrogation videos. He actually calls Brooks and essentially tells him to keep his mouth shut, playing his attorney, if you will, and telling him not to say anything else. So for doing that and getting involved in the investigation and potentially messing up anything, the Chief McCubbin fired him. Also, an interesting fact in all that was that he never went to look for Crystal. This is his brother's girlfriend, his nephew's mother, and that was something that really stuck with Chief Rick McCubbin at the time, who was the Bardstown.
This is a small town, right? This is a super small town. You're talking about 5 unsolved cases? Are any of these other ones potentially connected to this?
Well, I mean, you have the obvious because it is a small town. So a lot of them have connections in that way. But Jason Ellis is the first one. And I've been covering his case since 2013 when it happened. He was a Bardstown police officer with Nick Houck. Then you have Tommy Ballard, who is Crystal's father, who just over a year after she disappeared is shot and killed in what is first believed to be a hunting accident when he's hunting on his own property with his grandson. And you've got to remember, Tommy Ballard was very vocal during those 18 months while his daughter was missing, very vocal about her disappearance, the case, and who he believed was responsible for it. So now the FBI is not only investigating Crystal's case, they're also investigating Tommy's case. So is there a connection between these cases? I believe there is. And I think once more arrests are made, we're going to start seeing more solved cases here.
All right, we're going to dig into this story, into this case, into some of the evidence. Jessica Knoll will be staying with us. We'll also bring in some more of our investigators. A lot to get to, plus coming up next hour. In Los Angeles, California, some unexpected...
Authentic voice.
Is Sherry the one that reported her missing? Sherry's. All right, I had a question from the media or from the news that I wanted to ask you all think about. You all said that a family member found her car. How does that happen? Rather than the police department, as large as this county is, a family member.
Well, that's a pretty big family, and as I understand it, someone who knew them called them and said there's a car that looks like hers on the parkway, and they went out there.
Who was the family member that found that car?
I don't know, I have to look at my notes. There were 2 of them.
Am I able to know that question, that answer?
I'll tell you who it was. I just have to look back through my notes and see who it was.
That's a strange moment, isn't it? There's Brooks Houck being questioned by police, and he's questioning the police about, who found the car? And why is it the family member found? I mean, I've seen it in more than one case where the family is desperate to get any information, and their friends will be desperate to get any information. Was he desperate? Was he out there looking for her? I don't know. Still with us, investigative journalist, producer, and co-host of the Investigators podcast, Jessica Knoll. Also joining us now in Jacksonville, Alabama, forensic death investigator, professor of forensics at Jacksonville State University, and host of the Body Bags podcast, Joseph Scott Morgan. And joining us in Los Angeles, California, retired FBI Special Agent Bobby Chacon. Welcome, everyone. I just want to take a moment and just acknowledge Bobby. I know it's 9/11. I know it's such a significant day for you, being one of the folks who responded to all of that in New York. So thank you for the work that you've done, and I appreciate you being on here tonight, on a night where I know it's tough to do anything but think about all that you experienced and the losses, et cetera. So thanks so much, Bobby.
Thank you, Vane.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate that.
We
very
really
much.
do.
It's a special day for me. Yes.
Okay. Let's start here. Bobby, I'll start with you. What we just saw there, Brooks Houck, who's been the suspect since the beginning, that was an awkward moment, wasn't it? Kind of a strange moment.
Totally, and he's trying to find out what the police know, right? He's trying to find out more about the investigation. We've seen this time and again when someone's involved in a crime, right? They're desperate to know what the police know, who reported it, you know, what they say. You know, it's not, he doesn't want to know about the disappearance. He wants to know about the investigation, you know, and that's really peculiar. To me, it's a dead giveaway. There's a couple of things. You know, you played a segment of that interview earlier where, you know, that crazy phone call with the guy who called him at night, and he doesn't remember what the guy asked him. It didn't surprise me he didn't remember, but then he says, "What did I tell you?" Now, normally, if you call me and say, "Oh, that's right, that's what you called me about," I'll remember what I said back to you. But he asked the guy to repeat what he said back to the guy. So that's a dead giveaway that he's trying to use this guy as some kind of alibi for himself. Not the fact that he didn't remember what the guy asked him, but once reminded of what the guy asked him, he certainly should have remembered what he then responded to the guy. So there's a couple of problematic things in this interview that jump out to me.
And, you know, Joseph Scott Morgan, I'm going to play some more of this. And as you watch it, and everybody at home, Brooks Houck reminds me of like one of those reality show people. You know, like you're ad-libbing, you're kind of, you know, no script per se, but you're just like a really bad actor, okay? That's the way it's coming across to me. That's just my interpretation. Here he is in that moment that Jessica talked about, where his brother, the police officer, is on the phone with him in the middle of this interrogation.
We're still getting video from different places, you know, that along that route. Can I get there? Sure. Hello? No. I'm up here. I know that you didn't know. I'm up here in this interview with the Detective Snow. I've been up here a good little while. I'm filling out this statement here and everything. Are you telling me that's what I need to do? I know that. But the way that I look at it is, I'm innocent. I ain't done nothing wrong. Well, you know, I know you told me innocent people got jammed up, but if you're telling me to leave, I'll get up and leave. If you want me to. I know I'm going through a lot, but I'm trying to get this guy to help me. I don't think she's ran off with some other guy. I don't believe that. You can't make me think that. No. Yeah, I mean, so do I. I'll do exactly what you're telling me to do right now. You want me to get up and leave? Man, I don't think these guys. I don't think these people are not vindictive just to skin me for no reason. Man, this is not their family. This is not.
Thank you. He thinks y'all gonna he thinks.
I don't know who he is.
Nick, my brother. He just, no, I know that, but I'm not. He just said just to keep sitting up here, to give a statement, do an interview, whatever I gotta do it. But he said, no, just to keep just letting them just beat you to death over this right here. Just ask what you gotta ask and let you know.
And you tell me.
You see what I mean, he knows more about this than I do.
What is this? What is this, Joseph Scott? What did we just see there? Joseph? Oh, wow. Oh, he's unfrozen now.
Oh, okay.
Joseph Scott Morgan, you were frozen there for a second. Sorry.
That made me
mad
laugh.
at me. No, go ahead.
No way. Yeah, major deflection, I think, on his part. It's fascinating, isn't it? It's almost like he's had this conversation. I love how you use this term, get jammed up, relative to an interaction with police. And, I'm sure that just if his brother's a police officer, I'm sure that they've, in passing, had conversations about what it's like to go through an interview, perhaps interrogation. He understands that. But also there was a touch of Bard in there as well. It seemed as though there was a bit of acting, attempt acting. He wants to at least give the appearance that, he's an open book and that he's not to causing problems. As a matter of fact, he wants to help find us. And he doesn't think that she's quote unquote run off with another guy. And so all of this is being played benefit of the detective that's sitting trying to do his job. Trust that detective is assessing everything that's coming out of his mouth, watching his movements, and he's making note of it.
These guys, they want me to go to a commercial, but I'm not going to go to a commercial. I'm going to keep doing this segment because that's what, okay. Oh, sorry. I mean, it was crazy what we just saw. So let's take a look at this. August 20th, 2020, the FBI takes over the case. Search warrants executed on Brooks' house, his brother's house, the Houck family farm. August 27th, 2021, multi-day search. Federal agents find items of interest under a driveway in the Woodlawn Springs subdivision. October 21st, 2022, FBI agents conclude a second search of the Houck family farm. Jessica Knoll, do we know items of interest? Do we have any idea?
No, we don't. And what we do know is that they did collect evidence and that it was then sent to the FBI lab in Quantico. That's about all we know. And since it has been some time and now there has been an arrest, we may know a little more than we did before soon.
Bobby, do you think there's a connection here between these subsequent searches by the FBI and what has happened now with this arrest?
Well, yeah, I absolutely do, because one of the charges is tampering with evidence. So, it's some kind of evidence-related charge. The second charge that he's charged with, the first one is conspiracy to commit the murder or to, assist in the committing the murder. And the second one is an evidence charge, is tampering with evidence. So I think it definitely, some of those searches, some of that stuff was probably, run through some databases, whether they got DNA. This guy that was arrested, I think, has a fairly active criminal history. So his DNA, his fingerprints and stuff were probably on file. And so I definitely think there's a relationship between the searches, the results of the searches sent to the lab, what the lab was able to glean from that evidence and these charges.
What a great point, right? He's like a career criminal. His DNA and stuff's going to be in the system. All right, guests are staying where they are. When we come back, we're going to talk about the shooting death of Crystal's father, Tommy Ballard.
Be quite.
Trial coverage continues Wednesday at 8/7 Central on Court TV.
The person that did this to my daughter knew my husband was not stopping, and he would not have given up until my daughter was brought home.
Incredible heartbreak for Sherry Ballard. Her daughter's missing, and then her husband, who's been every day, day in and day out looking for her, is shot and killed and is murdered. All this taking place in a small town, Bardstown, Kentucky. Unbelievable. Let's take a look at the timeline. So you've got July 3rd, 2015. Crystal Rogers last seen in her boyfriend's house, Brooks Houck. July 5th, Crystal Rogers reported missing. Her car is found abandoned with a flat tire at mile maker 14 on the Bluegrass Parkway in Bardstown. Her keys, phone, and purse all inside the car. July 8th, Brooks Houck is interviewed by detectives. October 16th, Brooks' brother Nick is fired from the Bardstown Police Department. And then November 19th, Tommy Ballard, Crystal's dad, fatally shot in the chest by an unknown person on family property while taking his grandson hunting. Okay, let's bring back in our guest, Jessica Knoll, investigative journalist Joseph Scott Morgan, forensic death investigator Bobby Chacon, former FBI special agent. Joseph Scott Morgan, I don't believe in coincidences. I just don't. I mean, it can't be a coincidence, can it?
No, it's not. And Tommy's death to me is very intriguing, Ben. When you think about the nature of this, he sustained a what I would deem as a center mass shot, which means right in the center of the body, on his property when he's out with his young grandson. And one of the compelling things is that the grandson called his grandmother and said, "Meemaw, Papa's been shot." At that moment in time, and she frantically begins to get dressed and to go out there and attempt to render aid. And that suggests for me in this environment that someone would have to have a familiarity with the location, would have an idea as to, say, for instance, set up a perfect hide and anticipate where to shoot from, maybe an idea of what the point of egress would be for this gentleman to leave the house with his grandson in tow. And here's one more thing I think that's kind of compelling. Was there any kind of foreknowledge, not foreknowledge, that sounds too new agey, but was there any kind of knowledge that was out there that stated that Tommy was going to go hunting that morning? Had it been put out? Had he talked about it to anybody so that there could be this moment of anticipation where someone could have taken this kind of shot? What it sounds like, it's a single shot. And it killed him on the spot right there. So I think that that's very compelling evidence. And I'd really be interested to know about the nature of that gunshot wound. And also if anything at the scene was recovered relative to the spent round. Was it still in his remains or did it pass through his body?
Bobby Chacon, are we looking for a sharpshooter here?
Yeah, I think so. Well, yes and no. I mean, look, that's an area where a lot of people are hunters, right? So they're very skilled with rifles. So I would assume that a lot of men in that general area, certainly in that town, are good long-range shots. They're hunters. They probably hunt every year. They zero in their weapons every season. They're very conversant in taking long shots and killing deer and the turkey and things like that. So I think that, sharpshooter, yes, but probably a lot of people in that town fit that profile.
All right, Bobby, I know you have to get out, so we appreciate your time tonight. Jessica Knoll, let me go to you right now. What else did you dig up relative to the murder of Tommy Ballard?
Well, this is going to kind of piggyback on another conversation we had about connections. So Tommy Ballard, where he was hunting on his family's property, butted up against the Bluegrass Parkway. And Bluegrass Parkway is also where Crystal Rogers' car was found on the side of the road. Also, Bluegrass Parkway is where the exit was that Jason Ellis was ambushed a few years earlier than that. So there's literally a connecting route for all of these killings and missing persons cases. As far as Tommy's death goes, I don't believe in coincidences either, especially for having done this for as long as I have. And he was leading the charge in the search for his daughter. He had created Team Crystal. He led numerous searches throughout the area, which none, by the way, Brooks ever showed up to help search for his missing girlfriend. So there's too much going on that would make me believe at all that this was an accidental shooting.
Joseph Scott Morgan, we have about 20 seconds left here. I think the key to everything, though, Joseph Lawson now in custody, he's got to roll over. Bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah, he does. I'd like to know what his association is with any of these construction sites. For me, as a forensic investigator, remember, they recovered evidence out of a driveway bin. You have access to concrete, all those sorts of things, being able to pour stuff. Looking for Crystal, I think, is going to be very important. It's going to lead back to some element of construction as far as I'm concerned. I'd like to know what kind of knowledge he has. Has he been a hand out on any of these job sites that this fellow's run?
All right.
I don't know if he's really been in any job sites, but he might have known him through his father. I mean, that's the connection that they have. So that's the most that I could like get us caught up to with this case though. I didn't know that Sarah Boone though was ready to go to trial. I'm like, I'm ready to hear that one because she has had 7 lawyers. She has another one. She has another one. She has another one. So she's not representing herself yet, but good golly, Miss Jolly with her. But so that's the latest update on Crystal Rogers' case. So I think that, like they were saying, the dominoes are going to fall. I think the dams are going to open and a lot more stuff's going to come out. I think we're going to see more stuff with her father and the way that he, how he was found and what happened with him. I know that they've done a lot of investigations with like in that field where they said that like I think the scope or maybe a bullet like grazed the tree and they have like impressions and stuff of that nature. So yeah, Lolo, she's had 7. I think this is 8. And her, like number 6 or 7 was like, she needs to represent herself. I was like, oh, that's not nice to say. She just got a new one, Doodlebug. So I think that this one's the new one. I think she just got him within the last like week or so. 2 weeks since I was gone a week. I'm like a week behind. Hold on one second. I'm going to blow my nose really quick. Sorry. The allergies in Ohio are like, oh my gosh, it's so much worse than in California. I didn't have any, no allergies out in that dry desert of a place. Yeah, new lawyer, not seen him yet. Okay, that's what I thought. So when I was packing my suitcase to go on this trip, I'm going to have to bring it in here to show you guys. It's Vincent's old suitcase. It's huge. It's like you can fit a lot in there. And so I tried to fit myself in there. I was like, I'm going to try it because Vincent wouldn't get in. He was like, he wasn't down for it. So I was like, I'm going to try this because when I'm looking at the suitcase, like when I was looking at it visually, like standing up, looking at it, looking down, I don't know if it's because I'm blind in one eye and my depth perception's off, but the suitcase looked plenty big for me. I'm not a huge girl. I'm not teeny tiny, but I'm not like, I'm pretty small. I'm like 140, 5'8". So pretty small. Couldn't fit in a suitcase. I was like trying to figure out how to get down in there, like to get my legs to fit in. And Jorge was like 5'9", 140, 160. So about the same size as me. And I couldn't fit myself in there. So I don't know how. She figured that out. I don't know how she got him in there, but she did. What did I bring you for my trip? What did I bring you guys? I'll think of something. I'll have to think of it. I actually got some t-shirts at the airport because we couldn't even find any t-shirts for me. We didn't end up going to the beach. We like went to the beach, but we just like were down by the beach. We didn't go down by the beach. We just like drove by it. And I said in the chat earlier, since we're kind of done with the live now, the first night that we were there, if I'm talking a little weird, it's because I broke my back tooth completely out of my mouth. I don't know what happened. I don't know if that's a crown. I know I got some crown work done, but I fell asleep. So don't ever fall asleep with candy in your mouth. Don't ever eat candy. Don't eat candy. I'm not supposed to be eating candy. Every time I eat candy, I break a tooth or something just happens. It's from me getting my mouth wired shut. I just have my poor mouth. That's the only thing that's just not fixed on my little body. And I fell asleep with a Jolly Rancher in my mouth. It was like our first night there. I didn't sleep and I was eating candy. And when I woke up, I literally like went to get the candy out and it has to be a crown because it literally just popped out of my mouth. And I was like, like, I was like I was waiting on the pain, I mean, and I can feel like something back there a little bit. So it's like, I think that they did some work and it was a crown, but y'all, every time I eat candy, Cheryl, it's every time. It's every time. I shouldn't eat candy. I shouldn't be allowed around candy. I shouldn't be allowed to smell it, look at it, none of it. Lick it. Can't even lick it. Because I really do. I always end up hurting my mouth. So you used to chip your teeth on soup. It's crazy. Like, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. It's from when I had my mouth wired shut, they dug the wires into my teeth, like under my gums. And it's like crazy. So I'm calling tomorrow. Yeah, I'm calling tomorrow. I'm going to call my dentist. Hopefully they can see me. If not, I got to get a dentist that can see me right away. Like, fix these teeth. Because, that messes up the whole thing. So I could feel like I've been talking kind of funny because I haven't been talking for this long in a while. Oh, good, Steve. I'm glad that I'm back. I feel like I'm rested a little. I mean, not today, but I'll get rested. But I feel like it was a good break. Yeah. Purse for a new tooth. Cheryl, you know what? I actually brought the cap home with me. I'm gonna put that on my pillow tonight because Vincent, he's played the tooth fairy. I had to get a tooth pulled. It's just been my back ones. So this is my third. And I had to get like a partial pull because it was from my car accident. And they like let me take it with me or something. But I remember like waking up. I don't know if they let me take it with me or if he just knew, but he put money under my pillow. He played like he was the tooth fairy. I thought it was really sweet. So he probably thinks I'm like pulling these out because he gave me like $20. And I'm like, that's a rich tooth fairy. Because my mama only used to give me like $2 to $5. Depending on, if she had change for the money or not. He must not. Yeah. I never had any dental problems until my mouth was wired shut. Don't recommend breaking your jaw. Yeah, Cheryl, it's the worst. I think that tooth pain is worse than any pain that personally physically, I've ever encountered in my life. And I have a lot of metal. Really, Joanne? See, okay, so a lot of people say that mine could be like illness related or medication related too, because they're just so brittle. My teeth are just so sad. I feel so bad for them. Maybe one day I'll get all brand new teeth. Like Swoop did. If you know the creator Swoop, she got like, she has like Invisalign, like, they're like, not Invisalign, but not that brand, but they're just like clip-ins. And I'm like, wow. 50 cents here. Really? Are you really 93, Lolo? No, you're not. Girl, laughing. I think it could be my meds, Cheryl. And I think it could be like they're all like make me dehydrated. That's another thing. But that's fine. I'm glad you guys let me complain about it for a minute to you guys, though. Made me feel better because I didn't complain the whole time I was on the trip. I was just like, my tooth is fine because I was so afraid that I'm on Medicaid. So I didn't even know if I could go to somewhere out there in California. And I'm like, what do I do? Like, what do I do? So I'm going to call my insurance tomorrow. I'm pretty sure if you have insurance, even if it's Medicaid, like if you have an emergency, you can go to that doctor, like a doctor in that state. So thanks, Doodlebug. We may just have to do like a fund, everybody chips in $1. I'm just kidding, guys. I'm just kidding. We'll get them fixed. We'll get me all fixed up. If that's the worst that's going on, then we're doing good over here. But no, I thank you guys for being here tonight. It was nice to be back. I'm excited to be back. Nancy's totally glad I'm back. She missed me. She cried a little bit when I came home today. So she was like, oh, thank God you're back, girl. So, folic acid. I might have to look into that. Well, I appreciate it. Well, you guys have a good night. Don't forget to listen to Steve's songs. It's the intro, outro song now. I got it uploaded. We're ready to go. But I appreciate you guys all being here. Thank you guys so much. Don't forget to hit the like button. Hashtag, if you guys don't mind, replay. replay, like do hashtag replay and then give me the time, and do it a little bit differently than just like regular hashtag replay. That way I get your guys' comments. But I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'll be well rested. We'll be going over probably Delphi or Ruby Frank, but I'm thinking Delphi because something's going on over there and I need to go read 136 pages of documents. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a good night, guys. Bye.